The following is presented by the National Federation of the Blind of South Carolina.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back. And we have our first Vice President, Miss Melinda Jones.
Hello.
We have our Secretary Treasurer, the very smart and intelligent Miss Shannon Cook.
Hi.
And myself, Michelle, who is a board member.
And
that are the board members that we have present thus far this evening. So what we're going to do is get started. Oh, gosh. Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, a phone call came through. I still have not figured out how to cut the phone call off to get back to the Zoom. So I just have to wait till it stops ringing. I apologize for that. So we're going to get started with our pledge, which is going to be done by Miss Shannon, I believe.
Okay. Wait a minute. I'm doing the wrong one. I pledge to participate actively in the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind to achieve equality, opportunity, and security for the blind, to support the policies and programs of the Federation, and to abide by its Constitution.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And now we will have the 1-minute message by our first Vice President, Miss Melinda.
Good evening, everyone. The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
All right. Thank you so very much. Shannon, can you please review the Zoom etiquette, please?
Sure.
Is that what it's called? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you are on your phone, if you have dialed in and you want to toggle mute and unmute, that is *6. If you want to raise and lower your hand, that is *Y. If you are on your app, I'm assuming it's the same on the Androids, but the mute and unmute button is the bottom left of the screen. And the easiest way I've found to get to raising your hand is if you go to the list of participants and double tap on your name, which is usually at the top. It has a raise and lower hand right there. And those two are toggle buttons. So you hit it once, it turns on, once it turns off. And if you're on a Mac, I'm sorry. No, no, it's command. I want to say control. It's Command A for audio to do the turn the speech on and not speech, but turn the audio on and off so you can mute and unmute, and Command Y. And the same if you are on a PC instead of Command, it's Steve, is it Alt or Control? I can't remember.
Alt A.
Alt. Okay. So it's Alt A to mute and unmute, and Alt Y to raise and lower hand. You can tell I don't use the PC version. So
with the Mac, it's Command Shift A to mute and unmute, and Command Shift Y to raise hand and lower hands.
Thanks for setting me straight on that. Yeah, because my commands would not have gotten you there. Also, as we go through during the program, Wendell can let you know how he wants this done, but if we wait and do questions and all at the end, we do ask that you raise your hand. Or if you're not able to, if you state your name and wait to be called on before you ask your question. That way we can keep some order and go kind of in the sequence, people raise and lower hands. So people are first come, first serve kind of thing.
Wonderful. Thank you. You did a wonderful job with that. Okay, so now we're going to have the presentation to present our wonderful speaker of the evening, Mr. Wendell Price. That's going to be done by our president, Miss Janice Bright.
Thank you, ladies. Wonderful job, Michelle, Shannon, and everyone else. Okay, you guys. So, ladies and gentlemen, Federation family, and my fellow Scabble leaders, it's an honor to come together with you tonight as we gather in the spirit of learning and lifting. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's presenter, a native of Clinton, South Carolina. He's a man whose journey proves that leadership isn't just about titles, it's about impact and legacy. Armed with both bachelor's and master's degrees from South Carolina State University, Wendell has spent the last 4 decades in the business of leadership, from guiding billion-dollar budgets at the South Carolina Department of Social Services to shaping futures in juvenile justice, mental and substance abuse programs, to building collaborative partnerships at Clemson University. His career has been one long masterclass in how leadership transforms lives and communities. Today, as a consultant, he continues that mission, helping organizations thrive through his vision. And leadership for Wendell didn't stop when his career ended. He's a proud Omega man. He's a steady voice in his church and community. And he's a husband of 48 years. Amazing. And he and his lovely, beautiful wife are blessed with 2 children and 2 grandchildren. So tonight, you're not just getting a presentation, you're getting a leadership playbook from someone who's lived it, led it, and lifted others with it. So buckle up, take your notes, grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your beverage of choice, because definitely what you'll learn will help you all figure out ways that you can level up your own leadership game. So please join me in welcoming our masterclass presenter, Mr. Wendell Price. Yay!
Good. Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, let me say thank you to Madam President and the rest of the officers and the members, all of the of Scabble, as well as the Federation. We thank you all. I mean, that introduction makes me a little bit nervous because it sounds like I'm going to offer you all something you hadn't heard. I may offer it in a different way, but I'm sure most of you all will be familiar. But we're going to do what we've come to do. And again, thank you all for your attention. And I will say here at the beginning, there are very few organizations, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to have many chances to be a part of organizations, but there are few, if any, other like the National Federation for the Blind. So it is an organization that everyone who is a member or any supporter should be proud of. So again, we just thank you all for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. And I will adhere to the the protocol that was outlined for us by Shannon, and I'll get through these. So I'd like us to spend the majority of our time in discussion. So I'm going to get through a couple of sections, and then we'll get to discussion because I love the discussions we generally have in every forum that we have. So let's go ahead and get started. But again, thank you all. It's a pleasure to do it. So this evening, if it has to have a title, then I would say this is a practical approach to leadership. And when I say practical, because we're not going to get into the weeds about theory or anything of that nature, but practical because it is something and it will apply to anyone, whether you're leading in a large organization or you're leading in a smaller organization, or whether you're at home or whether you're in a social group. This will apply to any arena that you might find yourself. So don't don't think it applies to just one because what I'm doing is taking the lived experiences, actual circumstances, as well as some of the training. I've really had some great opportunities career-wise to be a part of state and national leadership institutes. So but there's nothing that replaces practical, common sense approaches to leadership. And so that's what I will offer tonight is a practical, common sense approach to leadership. And the first thing I will say to you is that leadership will always, like every other growth or skill, um, it has to have a foundation. And the first foundation is really generated from your personal belief. And when I say your personal belief, that is how you feel about yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you feel about other people, what you believe about other people, and what you believe about the organization that you're engaged with. So just at the beginning, it is your personal belief that probably forms and shapes your first idea about leadership because as a person you'll be deciding based on how you see yourself. Are you a person who wants to go in and lead by working, or do you feel like you've got to have a position first before you can start to be a leader? I always say it's the opposite. Most of your leadership you're going to see from everyone, and that is because of the commitment that everyone has to the organization and the willingness to serve is probably one of the most important things. And seeing yourself as someone who's willing to serve other people rather than to direct other people. Directing people to me is somewhat different than leading people, and we'll talk about that more later. But also, when we get to the part where we talk about how you see other people. Do you see other people as being positive? Do you see other people as being honest? Do you see other people? So it's just your perception of other people. And then your perception and your view of an organization is pretty much the same. Do you see that organization as meeting its mission and its goals? Or do you see an organization that you might feel like it is lacking? But those are just I believe, the three primary personal beliefs that start to form your leadership. Now, as we do that, and those are foundations. So those beliefs, personal belief forms your foundation toward leadership. Now, after you've started and you kind of know what your foundation is, the next thing that you will find is that the most important or probably the most critical factor for good leadership, and I want to emphasize good leadership, is human relations. And when I talk about human relations, I think we all know in this manner, we're talking about how you get along with people, how you work with people, and sometimes even how you have differences with people. But human relations is the single most critical factor in leadership because if you don't have the ability to relate well with other people in a variety of environments or situations. Because I will tell you, and I don't think any of this will not come as a surprise to anyone, but leadership, you are going to have to lead through comfort when everything's rocking along well, soft winds and warm, everything's great. You're going to have to lead through change, and some of that change will not be voluntary. So that is another time that leadership has to come to the front. And the other that we can talk more about when we get into question, answers, and discussion is crisis. And when you lead through crisis, uh, you shouldn't have to change. You really should be able to be steady through comfort, change, or crisis as a leader. Now, all of us can probably point to some example in our experience with other people and organizations where we have seen leaders not do well even in comfort. When times were going well, when they've not done well during change, or they may have struggled during crisis. And that is not unusual. It's just not unusual that people will struggle sometimes in any of those environments. But that is a certainty as far as leadership goes, that you're going to have those times where it changes. But the leader, and as a leader, we all have to be the stability of an organization has to come from the person who is designated as the leader. So I'm going to now. I said I would hear a protocol, but is there anything anyone wants to say before I move to another section? Okay. Well, if not, then here's what I will tell you all we will do, because we'll spend the next bit of time on these areas, and those are three areas that are essential for the success of any leader. And when we talk about success for any leader, we're talking about three things. One is the ability to establish relationships. The other is to maintain relationships. And the third one would be to ensure growth. Now, what we have to know about all three of those is that they all have to be done at the same time. Those you can't say, well, this day I'm only going to focus on. It is they're integrated. They're all mixed. I mean, it's like dumping it into a bowl and everything's mixed, and you deal with all the parts every day. So that those three are essential elements to ensuring good leadership. And as I move through this, what I'm going to do, I'll give you, well, we'll give you maybe 5 items under each one of them. And so let's start with um, establishing relationships. The first thing in establishing a relationship with others is that the leader must first be genuine, be your own genuine self. Now, lots of people you hear them say, "Well, I have a mentor, or I have someone, and you want to emulate those people." But the best thing that you can do as a leader is develop as yourself, and because one thing that will be so noticeable with virtually anyone is that if there is a facade or of anything of that nature, people are pretty quick to see that. And the last thing you want to do is be viewed as insincere on any level as a leader. There are very few things. I'll tell you about a couple, but later. But there are very few things that will bottom out leadership as quickly as insincerity. So be your own genuine self whenever you are you're in your leadership position, which you're always in. Honestly, you're always in a leadership position, no matter. Secondly, is communicate. And when I say communicate, we all know communication, but we have to make sure when we are in a leadership position that we're not doing all the talking and everybody else is just sitting there, sometimes listening and sometimes zoning out. Um, but also, when we say communicate, you want to facilitate the discussion more often than you have to lead it. You want to facilitate, and that is get those discussions going, get people talking to you and talking to other people. That's the communication that you want to look for as a leader. Also, listening more than as much as possible. It's not always possible, depending on the circumstance, but listening as much as you possibly can will also fall right into that communication and communicating area. And third, I would tell you this, and that is demonstrate integrity. As a leader, demonstrate integrity. I also always say to folks, you can't buy integrity, but if you don't have it, you're going to pay for it. Because that is one of the things that honesty, higher moral values, and good ethics as a leader is a must. It's imperative that you have integrity as a leader, and it's important because even when people may ask questions, you have to be able to be honest. There's a way to handle every circumstance, but the one thing you have to do is you have to handle them all with integrity. On the next level, same thing in terms of establishing those relationships, is we should all, as leaders model accountability. And that simply put, be responsible. Don't, something goes bad, even though it may not be the leader's uh, direct responsibility. It's within your organization, and it is your responsibility. And in overall fashion, it's your responsibility. But be accountable. If you model accountability, you as a leader, you'll find other people doing the same. And the last item on this, establishing a relationship, we must all identify a common goal. We've got to be aiming in the same direction. You've got to be rowing in the same direction. I always say we don't all have to have the same size hand, but we all have to have a hand on the oar and row in the same direction. So that is always knowing what your goal is, and your goals might be, but we all have to be working in the same direction. Okay. All right. At this point, any questions? If not, I'll go through these next two, and then we can have our discussion. Hopefully, you all are taking notes or something so you can ask questions, because I do want to hear questions and have some discussion, because I think that's always a better part of any session. Okay. Anything right now? Anything that can't hold? We can do it now.
I have a question. This is Janice.
Sure.
On this list of 5 things that
Mhm.
you placed under establishing a relationship, the last one was setting a common goal, or establishing a common goal. Was that did I hit that correctly?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Let's go to maintaining relationships as a leader. Now, again, keep in mind, this is any organization. It could be your family, but it's wherever you have a role, and as a leader, you can do the same. It's establishing and maintaining relationships. So, secondly, maintaining relationships. The first thing and I would say to you is get to know as many people as possible on a personal basis. Get to know them. And you have that takes effort, because everybody does not easily cross your path. So that takes a little bit more effort, work, and more intent when you take that approach. But trust me, it works because people are going to give you great feedback when you talk to them. Um, you will find people who have critical input that you would not have gotten by any fashion other than talking directly to an individual. And you shouldn't be surprised at who it is, but you may be sometimes. Uh, Secondly, uh, engage your critics. As a leader, you are going to have critics. Everyone will. It doesn't matter how much you do or what you do or how well you do it. There are going to be people who differ with you, and that's okay. That is okay. I think too often people believe that you got to avoid the people who you don't see eye to eye with. But I see it just the opposite, because you will learn more about that person and within your organization or your group. So sometimes you should seek out differing opinions because it gives you a wider view of your organization or your group. So I would say don't shy away from critics. And sometimes you will even find out that they're not that critical of you. It is just that they see something from a different angle. And sometimes that view is just what you need in order to make the change and lead the kind of change that you want to observe. Third, I would say to you in maintaining those relationships, sometimes when it is feasible, implement an idea from someone, a member, or someone in your group. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if you can implement an idea, it can be very simple, something that someone else has offered or suggested, then you'll be amazed at how far that goes in your organization when people see you open to hearing and taking their ideas and putting them in place. So I always keep that in mind. It doesn't take much, it could be changing the placement of some notice, or you'd be amazed at the small things that make such big differences with people. So I would suggest to you always look at the possibility of having of taking people's opinions, and sometimes when they're feasible. You can't always do it, but I would tell you this: if you can't, tell them and tell them why. And that also keeps from developing schisms and divisions within your organization. So if you can't do it, it's always a good step to take is to sit down with that individual or individuals and talk with them about why it couldn't be done. Next, I would tell you this and suggest to you. I have what I call barbecue time, and it's not the barbecue that we're normally talking about on Tech Talk when we got finished. I call it's BBQ time, but it is beyond being quiet. And what I would suggest to you is to find that member that you have who is generally observing, very quiet. They're present, but they're quiet. And seek out some of those folks, an individual like that, and make an effort to find out, how they see things going. But again, this is leadership that's active, and you have to be making these type efforts to find out what your organization and what direction your organization is going. So please take that. It's called Beyond Being Quiet. You always have those individuals who are going to be there. You can count on them to be present, but sometimes you just need to ask them what they're thinking and take that to heart. Um, Lastly, on this maintaining the relationship, I would tell you have fun. Literally have fun, uh, because sometimes it just takes a simple gesture of being with people to interact with them at a different level, more social, more fellowship, a more relaxed engagement. I have one organization. We had several thousand people, and our uh, maintenance and facilities folks would the guys would occasionally, and you knew they would be guys when I tell you what they did. Uh, they would go to an amusement park and race go-karts on one Friday afternoon. And you'd be amazed that it was probably one of the most tightly knit, supportive groups of each other and the organization that you could find. I went out with them too. Of course, it was always fun to for some of them to try to make sure they got in a good lick on the go-kart the boss was in. So that was always a whole different thing. It was fun, but always something to do, but always find some avenue which allows you to have fun in maintaining relationships. Okay, that is the end of that particular section and that step. So we're about to go to the last one. Is there anyone that has a burning question before we move on to the ensuring growth portion?
Misty,
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
um, earlier when you were talking about, I'm I'm a, I'm assuming it's when someone is critical.
Mhm,
Um, I'm hoping I'm doing the right thing, but I don't do the talk with the person through with everybody because sometimes I'll be thinking they have something that might escalate over. So I'll
mhm.
ask them if we can talk after the meeting. Wouldn't that be good?
Oh yeah. No, anytime any approach you take to that Misty, uh, it's okay. You know, it's what's reasonable, what's safe, and what's most comfortable for you. What
Mhm.
approach and how you approach it. Yeah, we can all do it differently, but the key is to find some way in which to do
Okay.
Okay,
it.
this
Yes.
is Greg.
Hey.
I've served on uh committee, another organization, and
Mhm.
um I've run into people like you say, establish a relationship, or reach out and get others' opinions and communicate and all that good stuff. However, in that particular group, we had a whole bunch of people who would come to these meetings,
Mhm.
not to listen to understand, but to listen to criticize
Yes.
or listen to disagree on purpose, just to have something to
Yeah.
say. Or
Mhm.
and there's not so much of that I can take. So I found myself saying what I had to say, at the same time getting my point across, but maintaining my sanity and biting my tongue, because sometimes I can get a little frustrated, and the next thing you know, something wrong may come out, and that's something I had to work on.
Sure.
Especially after I found out that's what timing they were on, and
Yeah.
I'd rather not deal with those type people, but being in a leadership position, I had to deal with all types of
Mhm.
personalities and all of that good stuff. And I was just wondering, what is the best approach to dealing with those type situations?
Yeah, I would tell you now, first of all, I'll tell you that it is rarely easy. It's also rare that it's a first take. There are several applications and efforts and things that you will probably have to make with those people who are just contrarians. And there sometimes it requires some change organizationally. And
Mm.
sometimes it's one of those things, Greg, where you can literally, if you can find the head of it, uh, and get to that person. Sometimes that works. That you will be able to engage that individual. I wouldn't necessarily engage a group, even though I will tell you, I've had the, instances where the group operation had to happen.
Hmm.
But normally, I would tell you if you can find an individual and try to make an inroad, but you also just know it is probably when they're rooted like that, it is probably not going to be a quick one. It's not going to be a quick turnaround. And you also look for the support in your rest of your group. And sometimes you know, the loud voices like that sometimes will seem like they are they're the more dominant group, but it's only
Hmm.
because they're loud most of the time. But you really just have to find a way and check the rest of the organization to see if they are finding division or somewhere, is there someone else who's kind of playing double agent on you? Where they're going back and forth with the group and, saying yes in the meeting and then going back and, talking it up with the other
Hmm.
group. So
Yeah.
yeah. So those are, and they're all people dynamics. I mean, we all know that. That those things will surely happen. But I would tell you, don't don't try to rush it through. I would take time, and a lot of times you also find out that those groups will flame out, especially when there is a catalyst. If that person moves on, or if that person suddenly changes his or her approach, then sometimes you'll see them flame out. Now they will recycle at some point. So
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
just know that you can do it that way. But I would, I'd set my meetings and agendas where it's like, okay, here's your 10 minutes to vent your spleen. And after this, we're moving on. So sometimes you really have to get directive and restrict some of that opportunity. And then, just telling people if it's a voluntary organization that maybe they won't think about taking a break sometimes. And,
Hmm.
but that it's, generally, I will lean toward trying to engage them and find out, what it is that, what's under his saddle, you know,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
and go that way. Yeah.
And a lot of that problem was something that happened years
Uh,
ago, and they just didn't let it go.
yeah.
And
Ancient
every
history.
chance, yes, every chance they got, they brought it back up, and it starts that whole process all over again. I sat on that board for 12 years. I just recently stepped down. I had my fair share of it. I'm just actually a member again,
Yeah.
and yeah, we'll see if this new administration can kind of steer it in a different
Yeah.
direction, but not Greg. I've had enough of it. I
Yeah.
just can't.
Well, and that does happen. Now, does the organization ever have like retreats, Greg, where it's once a year or something where it's like, okay, we're all getting together and we're just going to talk these things out and we'll see what plans we have and who can support what. But sometimes it's like we're just gonna have to be face to face on this one.
Yeah,
And
we've
yeah,
tried something
mhm,
similar to that, but
right.
that crowd, that same crowd,
Hmm.
the naysayers, they
Hmm.
always come through with there's a problem with this, that, the other, and the third, and the
Yeah.
usual suspects usually show up, and we're all on the
Mhm.
same page. But
Yeah.
then that bunch is the one that causes the problem, and then once we plan something, they're the
Hmm.
ones who uh does the most criticizing, and after the fact or after everything is brought together, then they want to take over and uh, uh just yeah,
Yeah.
it's something to work your last good nerve,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah. The other thing that you can always do is you can occasionally find that loudest voice and engage that person with an assignment, um, and then really just cause them to have to work and commit to it rather than talking about it. So it there, but it again, it is going to probably differ in every environment.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you're welcome. Anyone else before we move to the ensuring growth?
Yes, this is Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
How do you deal with someone that was previously in a leadership role, and they no longer are, but somehow the resources and tools and contacts and things of that nature that they had established for the organization or the group, they try to use them for their benefits of other organizations and committees that they're dealing with. And so it takes away from that resource or person or whomever being able to provide the intended group with what they're supposed to be getting, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it does. And we probably all are familiar with people who have either by time or by choice or not by choice um, left leadership positions and still want to exert the same influence. Um, that one is particularly uh, sticky because the person normally still has, a good bit of support or engagement. Uh, Now, I've always found that a transition, when you sit down, those transition discussions have to be fairly pointed. Individuals, it doesn't have to be, I would always do it with that one person. And then, we might together go to the rest of the group. And so people know very clearly that this is this is a new term, new person in charge, and everybody must, align themselves, with what the organization is doing. They don't need to align behind an individual, but align behind the work that's being set out. But I would, even now, if the person still is conducting themselves uh, in that manner, then it's still time to have that discussion and transition with them. So I found that it's difficult to do that without being direct with people. Because
Mm.
if you keep having the suggestion, well, I'd like it if we were able to do this, it has to be more direct than that. Um,
Mm.
because it's almost like uh, they're being given permission when you say, no, this can't happen. You're uh, you're shortchanging and setting back the organization. So
Mm.
the organization has to be first. We don't have to be bosom buddies, but we've got to not uh, have any conflict that open like that or anything that's denying the organization the ability to move forward. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank
and
you.
and and if you need a mediator in some of that, I would find somebody maybe from outside or someone that you know within the organization from another area, and sometimes it just kind of needs a referee or a mediator in there. So think about that based on the person's personality. Sometimes it only uh, inflames it. So you kind of got to know the individual you're dealing with. But the bottom line is having the opportunity to sit down face to face and say, this is detrimental to the organization.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to ensuring growth, which is that uh, last step for successful leadership. When we talk about ensuring growth, the first thing that I always think about, and that's ensuring growth of the organization and the individual or individuals within the organization. The first step would be building trust through openness. And one of the things that we all have to be cognizant of always is being open so that everyone sees what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And that is, unless there's some reason that ethically or morally or legally that you can't reveal something, then you want to be as open with your members and everyone as it is humanly possible, because that openness is what builds trust. Um, and we know that so many, and even the circumstance that Greg mentioned, when people are constantly rehashing something from the past, then in a sense, they're still saying to you that we don't trust what we see or we don't trust what we're hearing. So those are opportunities and times that you need to ensure that you're building trust within the organization. Now, the second thing I would say to you is when you're ensuring growth in the organization, is that you maintain trust through fairness. People may not always agree with you on something, but if they have the understanding that you have been fair in that circumstance, then normally uh, people with good intentions can respect that and they respect the fairness in you as a leader and they respect the fairness that they saw you apply. So those are you build trust through openness, you maintain it through fairness, and that will be something that carries over for you as a as a leader. Um, Also, what I would say to you is, in terms of ensuring growth in an organization, is as a leader, you have to understand that the essence of true leadership is knowing how to follow. And because you, as a leader, you have followed someone and you're still doing that as a leader. You're following organizational culture, organizational success, all of those things are a part of what you're doing. So always know that you're following, even as a leader, you are a follower. Uh, Lastly, what I'd say to you is you have to lead through humility. Uh, and that is putting the organization first, the interest of other people, whether they're those you serve with or those that you're charged with serving. Um, Putting them first is always going to be service over self. Um, and so I would always advise any leader to, your ego oftentimes is the least because you're more concerned about getting a job done and and not worrying about how you are going to come out of it. You know it, you're committed to the service, and that is the main thing. Now, in closing, what I would say to you, and that is organizational success leads to individual success. The better the organization does, the more opportunities the leaders have to impact uh, in other areas and other organizations. So when you lead with humility and the organization is first and the service is first and service to people is first, then you will be having success as a leader. I will stop there. Thank you all for being so patient and Janice, Madam President, if we are in the place, we'll take any discussion or questions now.
Okay, definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, it's just if you don't want to raise your hand, if you just introduce yourself once you are acknowledged, you can just go ahead with whatever questions you have from our audience. I have a question though.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
start it
sure.
off. Okay. All right. All right. Now going back to
Mhm,
the oh goodness, the point that you made about you're taking ideas or implementing ideas from your team.
mhm.
Okay, how do you handle this? What how would you handle this situation? Because I've come across this where
Uh-huh.
I've had team members that I specifically have reached out to, or either they've reached out to me and given given ideas, and I'm like you. I feel the same way. I feel like I'm the type of person or the type of leader where I definitely want I want the entire team to give input and to contribute to all of our output. So I love receiving ideas, but let's say you get an idea from a particular person on your team and it's not good, and they constantly are giving you bad ideas.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
how do you is it better to just put the bad idea out and just let it just float it out there? I mean, just implement it and just everything can't be perfect, and just look at it that way. And it's better for the overall good of the team to have this bad thing out there, or is there a way to cultivate it, or should you try to cultivate it and work with that person to make that idea better? But then I don't want them to feel like I'm changing, their idea. I was like, which approach is best?
Well, I would say the second approach is best, and I'll tell you why. I think rather than have something that drops out there with a thud, um, I think it's better for the individual and the organization for their growth, to help them and you kind of find out, okay, let's talk about how you're perceiving this or how you're developing this thing. Let's talk about it a little bit, and then try to get an idea about their thought process, what they're, maybe what they're aiming for, and then maybe you can help them figure out why they are consistently falling short with it. And so I look at it more from a developmental standpoint for that individual and helping them. And if you can find out what it is, maybe you can assign him or her uh, to some opportunities where they can sharpen those that whatever that shortfall is. So I would focus on it from that developmental point for the individual.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anyone else?
Shannon.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yes.
All right. I liked not that we were scoring or anything. I liked the last section about ensuring growth.
Yes.
Um, and I'm not saying anything out of school. I don't believe, by saying that that is an area that we, as our NFBFSC affiliate, we do need to work on that. We're doing great in a lot of ways because we did have 65 new members this year, that signed on to be new people that signed on to be members. Um, I think as far as a lot of the planning for or ensuring growth,
Mhm.
um, a lot of that can be tricky because you don't want folks who have been involved in the past to see it as you're leaving them in the dust. You have to balance the whole ego thing, similar to a lot of questions that have been brought up tonight. You're trying to not hurt somebody's feelings and crush
Hmm.
their spirit, but and keep them involved, but maybe not in the same capacity that they have been. Um, and this kind of dips into having succession for who's going to be the next leaders. Are you looking for your next successor in your current position, things like that. So I guess, I mean, that was just my thought. It wasn't really a question, just kind of where the conversation took my thought process. Um, One thing I did, and Michelle's question made me think of this. Years ago, when I worked for the state, we had, not in our agency, it was in a different agency, but um, the director left under some bad circumstances, was not a real good director. And the person that came in basically was asked, well, how are you going to handle dealing with the issues that this person has caused to come upon the agency? And basically, she said she will acknowledge the good points of what they did and appreciate it and move forward. And I thought that was great. So even if the job did not, that they did not result in good results, maybe their effort was genuine, or, there's always something good to point out and say, this was great. We appreciate that you gave your all and the heart you put into your job. You're not saying, sorry, it didn't work out for you, but,
Right.
but at the same time, you are trying to at least show that that others have come before you and done some things in a good way. Um, so
Well,
that was it. I just, like I said, a couple
yes.
comments. That
No,
was it.
no, those are great comments, Shannon. And the one thing I will tell you, because over time, I guess I was fortunate in a sense, or unfortunate, as some people might have said it. Um, we learn a lot, when things go bad, or when things don't go as well, and or they haven't worked out the way people planned them. One of the things we used to coach youth sports,
Mhm.
and we always tell the kids, you don't learn anything when you win except you love winning.
Right.
Now, when you lose, we all, when things don't go the way we expect them to go, you have a tendency to be more self-reflective
Mm-hmm.
and introspective. And that is one of the things that an opportunity that an organization has when they
Mm-hmm.
have been through a period of time where things were not going well. Then you can
Right.
really look in the mirror and say,
Mhm.
okay, how do we become better? How do
Exactly.
we grow from this thing? This thing that did not work well, and how do we learn from it?
Yes.
Well, you don't need to
I
wallow in it.
100% agree. I think most of what we learn, our lifelong lessons, come from our failures. So,
Yes, yes.
and that's not a bad thing.
It's as they say, failing forward. Yeah. So we can certainly learn from those circumstances that aren't necessarily positive or that have not gone as we expected them to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna have to duck out. I've got a meeting in 2 minutes.
Okay.
But
Well, thank you.
but I'll look forward to listening to the rest of the comments and questions.
All right. Thank you, Shannon.
Bye.
Yeah,
No,
Mr. Wendell, I have a quick question. If
sure.
you are, how do you build confidence as a leader?
That's a wonderful question. Uh, I think the first thing is don't try to get outside of what in terms of your skill set, your knowledge, because there's the only person that probably has you on a clock of sorts is probably you. Everybody else, but I would stay within myself, stay within the knowledge base that you have, work from that. You were good enough to get there, and what you have would be good enough until as you grow. So you look for the growth opportunity, but I would go with what you have, work, increase those skills, look for all the opportunities you can to continue growing. But your confidence will be greater when you stay within your, your range for a while. And that range is going to increase just by the work, the opportunities that you are exposed to. So you will actually be building those skills and those every day. You'll have to, and that's why those evaluations, self-evaluation, and self-assessment is always something good. And it's also good to have someone who will sit with you in a unbiased fashion and help you to assess those things. But confidence, one step, stay within what you know. Don't try to get outside to meet someone else's expectation of what you should be doing, but do it the way that you can and grow on that path.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Madam President, it looks like we have reached our 8 o'clock hour. I guess you will be doing some closing remarks for us now.
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you very much, Mr. Wendell, for the wonderful, very wonderful presentation and the knowledge that you shared upon us. So I do thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
I
Well,
know. I know. You have any last words you want to leave us with? Any last gems or anything, Mr. Wendell?
no, I just say, continue working as we do because this is one of the dynamic organizations, and the commitment level is so great with people, the camaraderie. So it is one of the outstanding organizations, and I think if we all focus on working together and leading together, then it will continue to grow and get better.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate everything you've given us tonight, the time, the wisdom. I just loved hearing all of your good points. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Just so you guys know, we have our next meeting is going to be, like I said, typically our meetings are the third Thursday of every month, and our next Scabble meeting is going to be Thursday, October the 16th. It's still going to be at 7 p.m. And that one is going to be led by our Vice President, Melinda Jones, and she's going to do a panel and also a membership drive. So that's going to be exciting. It's going to be a little it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of a little surprise in there. So she'll so come and participate in that. She's got some exciting things in store for everyone. And it's gonna take place, like I said, in October on the 16th, and it's also gonna kind of spill over into our November meeting. So yeah, come and check that out and see what Miss Melinda is putting together